The ACC is changing up its schedule for next season and beyond. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in a Locked On ACC. I'm Jackson Holzer, the host of Locked On Syracuse, and thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Of course, always free and available wherever you get your podcasts on the number one sports podcasting network. Of course, that's Kenton Gibbs, the host of Locked On NC State Wolfpack, and also a co-host here on Locked On ACC. And on today's show, later on, we'll discuss some ACC basketball, who is surprising us early on in this season and who is disappointing. My very own Syracuse Orange are very disappointing this season. Plus, the ACC has said for the 2026 season that there will be new tiebreakers. We don't know what those tiebreakers are, but there will be new ones. So me and Kenton will go over our thoughts and give our analysis on what we think the tiebreakers should consist of for the ACC. Hello, Jim Phillips. Are you listening right now? Maybe you probably should. But first and foremost, the ACC is changing up its schedule for the 2026 season and beyond. Now, Kenton, I read the press release. I'm sure you read the press release as well. The ACC is viewing the 2026 football schedule as a quote-unquote transition year. And that is because not every team is going to be playing the same amount of conference games. In fact, 12 teams are going to play 9 games in the ACC, and 5 teams are going to play 8 games in the conference next season. Of course, the 5 teams that will only play 8 are Boston College, Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina. In addition, sorry, this is a lot to get through here, but in addition, every team is required to play 10 power conference games, including Notre Dame in that. So if you have Notre Dame on your schedule, congratulations, that counts as a power conference game. So in total, you're either playing 8 conference games and 2 Power 4 games, or 9 conference games and 1 Power 4 game. And then in 2027, all but one team will play 9 ACC games. So with all that being said, Kenton, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't understand how Jim Phillips can be this bad at this job. I am legitimately shocked by it every single day. Why would you not go with the lowest common denominator of games that everybody has? You find the amount that everybody has in common, the lowest amount, and say, all right, you got to play this many. And everybody else, hey, if you have that extra game on there, we will leave that extra game because it is a Power 4 team, but it will be like we had with Wake Forest and UNC. It will be like NC State and Virginia this past year, where it's like, yes, you are playing a team in conference, but it does not affect your conference record. Because that way, you look at a scenario where if you do that for all the teams that have 9's first game, all of a sudden, everybody at the end of the season has an 8-game schedule to judge on. You have 8 games worth of criteria to judge on, and that's it. It makes it easy. It makes it smooth. You don't have to have well, should we do it by winning percentage? Perhaps. Because this team was 7-1 and this team was 6-1. Well, I'm not sure how this should work. Make it easy. Make everybody as similar as possible. And for the one team that has less conference games, I would say, personally, always make that the team that finished dead last in the conference the year before, because the chances are you are not going to have to worry about them in terms of the conference tiebreakers and whatnot. So when you say, all right, you're going to have one less than everybody else, let them schedule whoever they want, whatever Power 4 team they want, but you put them in a position, or you put it in a position to where the team that is extremely unlikely, because it's been forever and a day since a team that finished dead last place in the ACC goes to the ACC championship, or is even in that conversation the next year. It's just a mess. It's a mess the way that it's set up right now, because you're going to have unbalanced schedules. You're going to have who's 9, who's 8. Well, I guess we do winning percentage. Well, who beat who had that? It's just foolishness.
You know, I repeatedly say on this show many times that all you got to do is win your games, right? I always say that. It's my classic phrase. Just win your games, right? You want to keep complaining? That's fine. Win your games. As we all take a drink because I said win your games. But here's the reality of how dumb this schedule is that you can win your games and it does not matter. See, you have an unbalanced schedule where there could be I'm not sure how the math would work, but I believe this could happen where you have 3 teams that go undefeated in the conference because not everyone's going to always play each other, which means you could have, a 9-0 team and then an 8-0 team and an 8-0 team. And it's like, well, according to win percentage and according to record, 9-0 is better than 8-0, right? But the other team that went 8-0 doesn't have a chance to go 9-0 because they're not playing the same amount of conference games. Kenton, I think to your point about lowest common denominator, that's a perfect solution to all this. It's perfect. It's right there on a silver platter. And you know what? I'll even add to that, Kenton. You can make that game. Everyone, it gets designated as, that this is the game that's not going to count towards your ACC schedule. So everyone knows in advance. You can put a little mark next to it. But it could also be counted as a tiebreaker game. Because you can't just, you can't just like ignore that it is an ACC game. Like you are playing against an ACC team. So if you do run into a scenario where you're going down the checklist of tiebreakers, which we can talk about later on in the show here, and all of a sudden you reach a point where you're like, what do I want here? Do I want where you're ranked in the polls? Or do I want potentially, hey, how'd you do in the tiebreaker game? How'd you do in the soft launch game? How'd you do in it? Did you play in it? Did you not play in it? Did you win? Did you lose? And that way everyone plays 8 ACC games. And that 9th game is just another power conference game. But because it's the ACC, it could be counted as a tiebreaker, perhaps. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I like that a lot. And here's the other thing you could do with that. If you talk about the teams that only have 8, they still got to play a Power 4 team. So you could throw in that game and say, hey, this is your tiebreak for you as well. Even though it's not formally an ACC team, Power 4 team and you're choosing. And some people will say, well, that benefits the team who get a Power 4 team that they're choosing. Well, this is only 1 year. This is not something that's going to be happening in perpetuity. Like, hey, for the rest of time, we're going to have this delineation. I'm sorry, Jackson. I hate saying that people are really terrible at their jobs, but I legitimately do not understand what Jim Phillips is doing. It's like X-Files. I want to believe. I want to understand. I want to have something to believe in to say, Jim Phillips is not sleeping at the wheel. But it feels like we're propping up the corpse like Weekend at Bernie's here because what are we doing? What are we doing? The answer was right there. Hey, we'll just count to 8. And like you said, make the 9th a tiebreak game. And even beyond that, the thing that is most confusing about this is who came to the idea that it would be more effective to have this mismatch of schedules where 5 are playing this many, 12 are playing this many, or whatever the case may be. Who came to that idea that would be better than simply saying, you know what? No, the games are already scheduled, so we're not going to move them, but we can move how the schedule evolves and what matters, how much around it. Even if you didn't do it as the top break, I just think that the answer was right there to say everybody gets 8. It's going to be clean. It's going to be crisp. It's going to be clear. And we'll do it the exact same way. We'll either say at the front of your schedule or at the back of your schedule, and we go from there. You know what I mean? Or, the ACC make that decision for everybody. Your first game against the ACC opponent that's not a conference opponent. Every game after that counts, but not that one. It's so frustrating to see our conference fumble the little things because we're also fumbling the big things, Jackson. We're fumbling the big stuff. We're fumbling the small stuff. It's like, well, damn. I feel like Riggins' dad in Friday Night Lights. Hold on to the damn ball, son. Hold on to the ball. That's all we're asking the ACC to do. And every time they do their best impression of the Three Stooges, just, I don't know how it happened. We fumbled.
It's one of those rare instances, Kenton, where we both agree.
Yeah.
And when we both agree, It's usually pretty dangerous for the opponent because we go at it at times. We go at it plenty here. Plenty of times. When we're both in line, I mean, could you imagine the stuff that we could get done together? I mean, we could fix the ACC together because it's right there. It's not that hard. But, the ACC, they can't have good football teams. And now they don't know how to do a schedule. Now, coming up, perhaps they can get the tiebreakers right. So we'll talk about what the tiebreakers could be next on Locked On ACC. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. Having the app, find good times to save each month keeps you consistent with your financial goals. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on, rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Locked On ACC, I'm Jackson Holzer. That's Kenton Gibbs, host of NC State Wolfpack. And I am the host of Locked On Syracuse, filling in for Alex Dono. So in addition to the ACC fumbling the schedule, good news, ladies and gentlemen, they have not yet fumbled the tiebreakers just yet, because in that same press release, the ACC said they will be changing the tiebreakers, but I'll give them credit for this. They know that they are going to change the tiebreakers, but instead of impulsively saying what they're going to be, they're actually going to take time to think what the tiebreakers should be. And that allows us to speculate about what they should be. And now for some background, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why this is really happening is because of what happened this past college football season, where you had plenty of teams jumbled up at the top for who should be in the ACC championship game. And ultimately, the team that won the tiebreaker was a 7-5 Duke team. And to their credit, yes, they won the ACC, but that team wasn't even good enough to be selected for the college football playoff next year. Every Power 4 team, by the way, that wins their conference is going to get in the college football playoff according to the new memorandum, but that's maybe a topic for another day. But regardless, Kenton, what do you think the new tiebreakers should look like?
I think the new tiebreaker should be who you beat, the record of who you beat. If we get down, and then mind you, we're talking about the 7th or 6th layer of tiebreakers here. So we're not talking about the first layer of tiebreakers, because the first layer of tiebreakers is obviously always going to be head-to-head, who won and all that good stuff. But it's, if you end up in a jumbled up situation where everybody's beating everybody, it should be it should be who had the best record against the common opponents and all that stuff, and who beat the teams with the best records, in my opinion. The interesting thing is I'm confused as to how the tiebreakers didn't sort Duke out, because all of the 2-loss teams except Duke had beaten each other. Duke was the only team in that 2-loss range that did not have a win over another 2-loss team. There were only one. It was just them. So I get confused as to how, like, what happened with the tiebreaker to where we didn't say, oh, head-to-head, y'all don't have a win, you got to go. The door's that way, And again, no disrespect to Duke. Give them all their credit and love. Like you said, they got to the game. They won the ball game. All you can do, in the words of my good friend Jackson Holzer, is just win your games. And they did it. They just won their games. So with that in mind, I got to give Duke their love that they were there. However, I do think that it needs to be a situation where if we have a team like a Duke next year, and this is not like a Duke in terms of their out of conference record, I can give a damn about that. I don't care as far as like that being at the top of the list, but it should be, if it's a bunch of teams with the same record, nobody should be considered if you don't have wins against the other teams with that common record. If you've only beat teams with worse records than them, if you beat a team with a record that's ahead of the pack, okay, great, that can be considered in. They didn't have a conference win that was in that group, that was in that cohort. So how they ended up there, it didn't make a ton of sense to me.
So I'm going to throw out a couple of tiebreakers at you. I want to get your thoughts on these. First, I would like for overall record to be considered. If every team in the ACC is going to be playing against 10 power conference games, then I don't think you're necessarily worried about what every other team is going to be, like an imbalanced schedule, if you know what I mean, where, oh, but this team in their non-conference, they played absolutely nobody. Well, if everyone's playing 10 power conference games, then you know that the other two are probably going to be cupcakes. They're probably going to be wins. So you can maybe take overall record into account. So if you have a bunch of teams jumbled up, all right, well, who went 9-3 and who went 8-4? And just take the team that had the better overall record. And so if you had that for this past season, well, Duke is at 7-5. They don't make the conference championship game. Miami would have made the conference championship game. They'd be 10-2. We'd put them in the conference title game, and they got in the college football playoff anyway. So no harm, no foul. But that's why I would say I think overall record has to be on the list of tiebreakers. Another one that I want to throw at you, and this is along the lines of the style points mattering in college sports. What are your thoughts on point differential potentially being taken into account?
I don't hate it, but I don't love it. That's one of those that I'm more on the side of I don't like it, but I could understand it as a metric. The problem is it will create, like, when you play Boston College, leave your starters in until the end of the fourth quarter. Because if you can get enough of a point difference against them, now you've erased, in essence, maybe a 1-point win over a team that you should have beat by more, whatever the case may be. So it's not, with all due respect to Boston College, you know what you were this year, or at, Syracuse after they were playing the lacrosse player and whatnot. Because I believe Syracuse lost to Boston College.
Oh, they got stomped by Boston College.
Yeah, so if you're playing the Syracuse without a quarterback, and you're like, oh, well, we got to drop 70 on them. I don't like that, but I do understand that those are outliers, and you can't really base a rule for the most part around outliers, because normally you're not expecting every year we should not have a team as bad as Syracuse was this year.
I think they're going to have a real quarterback next year. So
yeah, the thing is, as much as I love Fran Brown, you cannot be one player going down away from that. Like this is not, it wasn't even like it was like, oh, we're competitive and we're good in every other aspect except this one. When quarterback play went down, everything fell off a cliff. It was, oh, we can't stop anybody. But that's neither here nor there. We don't. Now's not the time to slander Syracuse for Fran Brown. The reality is you should not expect a team to be that bad every year. So I get it, not basing a rule around the outlier. And in general, that point differential will, for the most part, bear out pretty good results. So I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't like it, but I would be opposed to it.
It's a weird. I think it should be on the list of tiebreakers, but I think it would be towards the bottom part of it.
I agree.
Would you prefer? Because I know this is most likely going to be on there, which is where you're ranked in the polls. Would you prefer where you're ranked in the polls or the point differential? Because here's the thing, though, because point differential is taken into account in the minds of voters because they look at the style points. So it's almost the same thing, except the point differential is more objective than the polls, which are just people's opinions at the end of the day.
Right. And that's, if I had to pick one or the other, I hate where you're ranked in the polls. I hate that with a passion. I really don't like that because it's so often based on brand recognition and who people think you are and all that. I mean, prime example at the end of last year, the way people treated Indiana for losing in the playoffs and getting stomped by Notre Dame, they didn't have the biggest margin of defeat in the first round of the playoffs. And yet they were talked about as the team that was like, we can't invite them back because of who they've historically been. And now look at them this year. Number one Heisman winner, beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. But again, we were told that they didn't belong back because of brand bias. Like that's the type of thing that, we shouldn't have to go full. If you're not undefeated, you put yourself at the hands and mercy of the voters. So I don't like the idea of doing it by ranking, which the only pro of doing it by ranking, which we probably know is what's coming here, it's the money aspect.
Yeah.
If you do it by the ranking, you'll get bigger brands in. You get bigger brands in, you get more money in because it's more support and all that type of stuff. But again, it's if I had to pick one between the two, give me the point differential all day and tomorrow as opposed to the brand part.
But at the end of the day, the money's going to win.
The money's always going to
win. The money always wins. I was listening to a different podcast today. It was more of a hockey podcast. Mm-hmm. And it was on there. It was like listing out all the reasons why the NHL should not expand. They shouldn't expand the league anymore. They're good at 32. And then the opposing point is, well, it's a $2 billion expansion fee. What do you think is going to win?
The $2 billion expansion.
The $2 billion is going to win. If I said, this doesn't make any sense, but you're going to make $2 billion as an organization, or in the case of the ACC, hey, judging it by the polls, I actually don't think it's a terrible idea to put there as a tiebreaker, but it shouldn't be at the top of the list of tiebreakers. Hey, maybe this isn't the greatest thing in the world, but we know how the voting works, and we know that the brand bias is going to trump a lot of other teams here, and we're going to make more money off of this. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to take the money. Yeah. So I think we know where we're at. I like the idea of common opponents, but against like the good teams, which was what you were proposing. I sort of like the idea of point differential. I definitely like overall record as well, now that there's more balanced schedules across the league. Polls, I think, should be towards the bottom, but for the love of almighty, no more 7-5 teams in the ACC championship. That absolutely cannot happen. Credit to Duke for going out and winning the game, but it just can't happen anymore. You can't have that sort of scenario. You need the two best teams in the ACC title year in and year out. Kenton, any last thoughts on this topic before we move on to talk some hoops?
All I will say is this. Yes, money will always win, but in all fairness, how many things has money winning reduced in terms of quality over the past 10 years? We don't even need to go me and Jackson's lifetime. Just over the past 10 years. How many times do we say, yeah, money won on the front end, and then on the back end, it was like, oh, that thing got exponentially worse because we let money win here. So, just my last 2 cents there.
You know what's going to happen, though? Yeah, I mean, that does happen. But at the end of the day, you know how they cover up for it? By making another decision based on how much money it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's just a never-ending cycle here of, we made a decision based on the money, and then it didn't necessarily work out. Let's make another decision based on the money again. And it just keeps going. And all it takes is you hit on one of them, and next thing you know, brilliant. I mean, next year, the college football playoff's going to be 14 teams in all likelihood, and then the following year, 16, and next thing you know, you got March Madness for college football. You ready for it? It's going to be fantastic. I'm sure it's not going to lower the quality of football at all. But money always wins.
I'm ready to see Cinderella Central Michigan make it all the way to the Final Four in football. That won't happen.
I am ready for Syracuse with a lacrosse player at quarterback reach the Final Four of football. Our one shining moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to be like in the year of 2037. Hopefully there's no lacrosse players at quarterback anymore for Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, host of Locked On Syracuse. That's Kenton Gibbs, host of Locked On Wolfpack. We're both hosting here on Locked On ACC. Now, coming up, we'll talk some hoops. Which teams are surprising us and which teams are disappointing us? Find out next on Locked On ACC. The holidays always show up faster than we expect, and if you're still putting together gifts, last-minute decor, or getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick home refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, with decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. It's the best way to get your home holiday ready without running around to different stores. Get last-minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. ACC basketball. As I keep saying here already on Locked On ACC, it's much better this time around than it was a year ago. And hopefully that gives us some hope for ACC football for 2026 that, hey, things can get better year over year within the ACC as far as the quality of the teams are concerned. Now, I think some of the teams are fairly obvious as far as, who's doing well and who's not doing well. I mean, everyone knew that Duke was going to be really good and Boozer is amazing. Carolina's holding steady. Louisville, yeah, I know they got spanked by Tennessee the other day, but they're still holding firm. But Kenton, who is surprising you and who is disappointing you so far early in this season?
I mean, you talk about what everybody thought this ACC season was going to be and who we thought was going to be where. We all thought that there was a chance that Virginia was going to make a bounce back and a comeback under, I believe it's Coach Odom.
Yep.
We all thought that, like, hey, they had a chance to be good. They have come out of the gates sparking. I mean, what more can you really ask of UVA than what they've given you early in the season? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, yeah, they've been blowing everybody out by 30 and this is a team that we can go ahead and book it. This is Bennett Ball is back and they're going to be in the Final Four soon. But I can say objectively they have won a bunch of games that they were supposed to win and even a couple that they weren't. When people look at that Texas game, you talk about a team that can absolutely light it up on any given night. You held them to 69 points. So I wouldn't exactly say Bennett Ball is back, but these guys are figuring it out. They're winning their games. And at the end of the day, y'all know us on this show. We're always going to say, just win your games. And that's what Virginia has done at an extremely high level. So we're always going to give them their respect there. I think that they've surprised me in a positive way. In terms of who's disappointed, I don't want to say it.
Don't do it.
Listen, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because we talked about this in pre-production, so I'm not going to steal your shine there. But I will say, maybe this was a bad take by me. Maybe it was just my fault. Maybe it was just my fault. Maybe it was my fault for believing in this team that they could come up. But Syracuse has they've had a moment or two where they've looked all right, but man, it's been a very, very rough go for them, and every team below them was expected to be terrible this year. Syracuse was a bit of a wild card. Some people said, they'll be all right. They'll be middle of the pack. Some people said they'd be bad. I mean, outside of their win against Tennessee, it has been slow going for those for the Syracuse Orange. Some of the worst, most disappointing losses, darn near triple digit in the net at this moment. We're at Christmas time, and in the words of the narrator from The Grinch, stink, stank, stunk.
Adrian Autry says that there's no problem with the Syracuse offense.
I've got no problem with growing hair. Yeah, I can do it whenever I want.
Yep. I'll leave it at that with Syracuse. Everything is fine. I mean, you have Jim Boeheim saying that he would give a coach 5 years in the NIL era to build a successful program. 5 years. That's what he would do. 5. That's right. Adrian Autry is saying that his offense has no issues, even though they have no half-court offense, which I guess it doesn't have a problem if you don't actually have one. So I guess I get his point. I guess I get it. I get his point. Yeah, everything's okay. We're all good. We're 96 in the net. But, there's still occasional people who still have hope in Syracuse. And I host Locked on Syracuse. I want them to win. I'm a Syracuse alum. Kenton, when you said that they could finish top 4 in the ACC this year, I looked at you sideways like, are you sure?
I hope I am.
Kenton, it's not your fault. I'm not blaming you for it, for believing in Syracuse. But, yeah, they are a very disappointing team. As far as who is surprising me, I don't know if this is really a surprise, but more like I'm proud of this program, and it's an example, just like Virginia, of a team that can get their act together with a new coach in just 1 year. That's all it takes now in the NIL era. 1 year, you can turn it around. The Miami Hurricanes. Miami was one of the worst teams in the ACC last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they play in the ACC tournament a year ago?
No, they did not. They finished dead last, I believe, or second to last.
They were pretty terrible last year. They did beat Syracuse, though, so maybe they weren't so bad. But, they beat Syracuse last year. Great. Syracuse was terrible. But anyway, Miami this year, 33 in the net. They're basically right now, I get it's not even Christmas yet, but they're basically putting themselves in great position to make the tournament in year 1 of the Jay Lucas era.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive. And I said before the year, I'm high on the Miami Hurricanes. I like what they did in the transfer portal. I like this new coach that they're getting over from Duke. I think he knows what he's doing. That's a program that does have a lot of money. And it's also a program that's had success fairly recently. There was no reason to believe that this team could not bounce back this season, and they have done exactly that. I also want to shout out Cal, because very quietly, Cal has a win over UCLA, and they're 10-1 overall. Now, the metrics still don't necessarily love them. Cal is 63 in the net right now, but if you're 63 at around this time, that puts your team in decent position to be able to make a run come ACC play. And as we all know, the ACC is a lot better this year. So Cal is going to have more opportunities to secure big wins. Therefore, Cal could be a sleeper in the ACC to maybe make a run deep in the tournament for the conference tournament is concerned, and perhaps make March Madness at the end of the day. Cal is a surprising team for me this year. As far as a disappointing team, aside from Syracuse, let's put them away, NC State I leave with a question mark. Just a question mark. That's all it is. I don't know if they're truly disappointing me, but I'm kind of just waiting for them, Kenton, to get over the hump. I mean, what are your thoughts on your team?
I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that Will Wade's larger-than-life persona had people expecting gangbusters out the gates. It had people expecting, hey, he's coming in, kicking behinds and taking names immediately, and this process has not quite yielded that yet. But I also do want to warn people about one thing that I truly think a lot of folks have gotten wrong here. When I heard Will Wade in his first press conference talk about what the expectation was for year one, he said top 4 in the ACC and a tournament appearance. Right now, according to the metrics, NC State is firmly within the field of 64. It's not even like they're like oh my God, we might just barely sneak in, just barely get left out. They're, according to the metrics, whether you agree with them or not, they're on the right side of the bubble. And then beyond that, you look at the other part of it, top 4 in the conference. Well, last time I checked, has anybody played a conference basketball game yet? I mean, I don't. So hypothetically speaking, everybody, this thing is wide open for everybody. But I do understand how, constantly being close but no cigar, it was like, well, wait, that's been the story of NC State for the last 30 damn years. That's been who they've been for forever. Why are we acting as if there's a different story there at hand than there had been elsewhere? I get it. I'm not mad at anybody saying this team has been a disappointment so far. I completely understand. I completely get where you're coming from. If you had belief in Will Wade, like a lot of folks in Wolfpack Nation did, I completely understand it. But I will warn those people, just like I warned Wolfpack Nation, at the end of the day, yes, we have seen coaches come in year one in the transfer portal era and tear it up and do great and all that. We're not even halfway through year one. We're a third of the way through year one, and you're ready to close or shut the books on this team when there is – no, I'm not saying you. I'm saying like folks who are ready. You're ready to close and shut the book on this team that has a bunch of quad one opportunities ahead of them, that has a bunch of very quality teams in conference ahead of them. I think it's a little early and a little naive to do that because, Jackson, how many times have we seen the team look fantastic and out of conference, and then that has to carry them through a very mediocre conference play season that, barely got them in the tournament? And how many times have we seen teams out of conference that look, man, so-so, and then in conference they get hot, and all of a sudden we look up like, well, damn.
Louisville was that team last year.
And that's my point exactly. And their coach was in year what?
1.
Oh, okay. So could it be possible that there takes a little bit of time to buy in? Yes. Could it also be possible that, hey, what you see is what you get? NC State will not improve throughout the season. There will be no tournament. There will be no top 4 in the ACC for you. That's also possible. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm a Will Wade evangelist and Brother Wade is going to take us to the promised land. I'm not going to tell you that. What I will tell you is it's 10 games. Just breathe.
Fair enough. I mean, that's why I put a question mark next to NC State, because it's like I'm not mad and I'm not disappointed. I'm just kind of like I'm left with maybe wanting a little bit more, because they're taking care of business against the teams they're supposed to take care of business again. I mean, they did it last night with McNeil going off for how many points? I mean, was it 58,
47.
59, 47? What's the difference? Who cares? It was so many points. It's just like, oh, he's got another bucket. Well, you know what? He definitely hit his over-under. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Last night. He definitely hit his over-under. So, yeah, they're taking care of business against the teams they're supposed to do that against. And you look at where they're at in the net, and they're right behind Miami, actually. They're 33 right now in the net, I believe, or 34. One of those two does 34 in the net. So they're not a bad team. It's not like, oh, my goodness, NC State has just fallen flat on their face. It's when they've had the opportunity to get some big wins this season,
right?
They've just come up a little bit short. And so my question for them going forward is, okay, when you get to ACC play and you're playing against other good teams, are they going to get enough big wins this season and ultimately make the NCAA tournament, which I do think is a fair expectation given what this team did in the offseason and given that the coach that they have, that they should be a tournament team, even in year one of the Will Wade era.
And that's a very fair question, given the fact it's a fair question. All I'm saying is I understand humans are going to be humans. Fans are going to be short for fanatic. Fan is short for fanatic. That's what people are going to do. I'm not ready to write this team one way or the other. I'm not ready to say, I can guarantee you Will Wade's going to do everything he said he's going to do because, like I said before, I trust Frank Williams Wade with my unborn first child, and I'll trust him with this team. And I'm also not going to say, well, it's the same old NC State that we've seen since forever. Oh, it might as well be Sidney Lowe back coaching, with all due respect to NC State legend Sidney Lowe. It's not that. It's not that. So let's let this thing play out. I think in today's society, everybody wants oxtail worth a blessing and hot dog timing. That's not how it works. You can boil a hot dog on the stove for 5 minutes and that thing will be ready. Sure. You can't do that with oxtails. And which one would last you longer? Which one is a heartier meal? Which one would everybody in the world say tastes better? And if you say I'm lying, look at the price difference between the two. How much you got to pay for a pound of hot dog versus a pound of oxtail? Them oxtails so expensive, I almost had to take out a second mortgage to get me some for Christmas. So let's just keep that in mind.
Fair enough. Kenton, any last thoughts on ACC basketball as we head towards conference play?
I'm excited that we're talking about so many good teams. I really am.
Oh, yeah.
From Cal to Miami to UVA to Louisville to Duke. We're talking about so many good teams. Last year, we said, is anybody going to get in except Duke and Louisville?
Last year, the conversation was, okay, Duke is really good. Clemson and Louisville are pretty good. They'll be tournament teams, and everyone else is kind of just like, here?
Yeah.
Like, you play basketball during the week, sometimes on the weekends, and that's
exactly. And this year, we got so many teams that are good, even if Duke does turn out to be what everybody thought they were and just dominates and run away with it, you'll still have a damn good competition for second. You'll still have a hell of a competition for third. Last year, it was like, it's basically who doesn't want to lose the least that'll get third place and all that. So the quality of ACC basketball picking up excites me. Now, ACC football, follow in the suit of ACC basketball and just win your games.
I actually checked the ESPN latest bracketology, and it was from December 16th. It's always a couple of days behind whenever I check it. Just so happens to be that way. But the ACC is 8 teams in the projected field so far. 8. That's pretty good. We'll take that. That's all right. That's pretty good. We'll take 8. I mean, maybe we can get a little bit more in there, but who knows? I mean, 8 teams at this point, given what the conference has been the last few years in terms of getting teams in the tournament. You know what the ACC did right? Their scheduling. They did the scheduling right. Mm-hmm. Less conference games, more out of conference. Therefore, you can showcase yourself more outside of the ACC. Prove that you're good relative to the rest of the leagues. And next thing you know, all of a sudden people look at the ACC and say, maybe they're not at their heyday, but they're certainly a very, very good, respectable power conference. Whereas the past few years, they had a few teams that were good and every other team, no respect whatsoever. So shout out to the ACC and the officials that made the schedule for this year and beyond. You actually got that one right. And teams, one more drink here, Kenton, are winning their games.
Cheers.
All right, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On ACC. And of course, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell us why we're both idiots. I mean, who in the ACC is going to emerge in basketball this year? What's a team that we're not talking about enough? What do you think the tiebreaker should be for ACC football going forward? And also leave a comment expressing your concerns about Jim Phillips and his commissioner status with the ACC, given that he can't get the football schedule right, apparently. He gets basketball right, but not the football right. But anyway, folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll be back tomorrow here on Locked On ACC.